Meghan Markle crashed Valentino Garavani's funeral in Rome uninvited, with entourage and big camera crew to film for her image rehab. Security booted her fast. No respect for the dead, just her brand. Utterly classless.
Everyone's talking about how Meghan Markle didn't get an invite to the private funeral in Rome. That, my friends, is the wrong story. The real story is that her private outreach became public. And that only happens when the room wants you exposed and not included, which is bad news for Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle just faced what might be the most humiliating rejection of her entire career. And insiders say she's absolutely furious about it. While Prince Harry was reportedly emotional in a London courtroom, struggling to hold it together and even getting scolded by a judge multiple times, Meghan was busy working behind the scenes, and not in a good way. According to multiple Hollywood insiders, Meghan spent that same week frantically reaching out to major fashion contacts, trying to secure an invitation to one of the most exclusive and emotional events of the year, the funeral of fashion legend Valentino Garni in Rome. But instead of landing the high-profile seat she was hoping for, she got a very firm rejection. Ouch! And this wasn't just a missed invite, it's being seen as a public blow to her entire post-royal image. Reports claim that within hours of the tragic announcement that Valentino had passed away at age 93, Meghan's team started contacting people close to his inner circle, hoping to be seen among the elite crowd at the ceremony. But here's the shocking part. Instead of offering condolences or paying tribute, sources say Meghan's focus was on getting that coveted invitation. The service, held on Friday, January 23rd at the historic Basilica Santa Maria dei Martiri in Rome, became the latest stage she couldn't access. And that snub, it's sending serious waves through her Hollywood comeback plans. The guest list for Valentino Garni's funeral was nothing short of legendary, the ultimate fashion hall of fame.
Meghan Markle is in California with her wanting to be in the UK husband, trying to get back to the UK. But what is so alarming to me is how Meghan continues to want to create these ripples in these other areas and parts of the world as she did.
Tom Ford, Donatella Versace, Anna Wintour, Anne Hathaway, Elizabeth Hurley, even Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. Every major name in style and power was there. Over 10,000 people lined the streets for the public viewing, and Meghan Markle wanted in desperately. Insiders say she made every move possible to make sure she'd be part of that elite crowd, but it backfired big time. Here's the twist. Meghan has never actually been part of Valentino's circle. She's never attended one of his runway shows, never collaborated with his brand, and beyond wearing one or two of his pieces, there's no real connection. Millions of women have worn Valentino. That doesn't make them fashion insiders. So what was this really about? It wasn't about respect. It was about visibility, about standing shoulder to shoulder with fashion royalty like Anna Wintour and Donatella Versace. Meghan wanted those cameras flashing again. And she thought she could pull it off, because honestly, it's worked before. Just last October, she famously crashed Paris Fashion Week, inviting herself to Balenciaga's show. Even creative director Pierpaolo Piccioli admitted she reached out directly saying she would love to attend. Translation? Meghan pushed her way in. She believed that same approach could get her into Valentino's farewell, especially since Piccioli had once been Valentino's own creative director from 2008 to 2024. Meghan saw a connection, but the fashion elite weren't buying it this time. According to Radar Online, despite her efforts and endless calls, Meghan's name never made it onto the guest list. She was publicly left out. The funeral took place on January 23rd, with Anne Hathaway delivering a touching tribute. Tom Ford, Donatella Versace, Anna Wintour, and Elizabeth Hurley.
It is a lot of fun to see so much of the royal family, and in such a strategic way, to where we're learning a little bit more about them, but really their mission is to get these important causes out there.
We had to be creative, but today you click your fingers and you've got all these platforms beating a path to the doorway of Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace saying, yeah.
We're going to the press conference when the restoration of the castle was finished. And it was announced that it had been done within the budget, within the time. The press was so disappointed.
All stood among the mourners, but Meghan nowhere in sight. And then came the leak, revealing her frantic calls, her attempts to charm her way in, and her visible frustration when it didn't work. Meanwhile, as Meghan was dialing around Hollywood and Rome, Prince Harry was across the ocean in London, and that wasn't going smoothly either. On January 21st and 22nd, he appeared in high court for his privacy lawsuit against the Daily Mail's publishers. The case involved 14 old articles from 2001 to 2013, years before he even met Meghan, accusing the press of invading his privacy through alleged phone hacking. But things quickly spiraled. Instead of calmly presenting his points, Harry reportedly clashed with defense lawyer Anthony White, forcing Judge Matthew Nicklin to step in several times. The judge even reminded him, "You don't need to argue back today." It was an uncomfortable scene, one that added to an already chaotic week for the Sussexes. In simple terms, the judge was telling Harry to calm down and just stick to the questions. But he couldn't do it. He kept going off on emotional tangents, and the courtroom could feel the tension rising by the minute. And then came the moment that shocked everyone. Even though the case had absolutely nothing to do with Meghan, since the articles in question were written years before they ever met, Harry suddenly broke down, his voice shaking as he brought her up anyway. He told the court, "They've made my wife's life a misery." The courtroom went silent. People were confused. Why bring Meghan into a case about events from before she was even part of his life?
This ripple effect happens in a lot of areas in Hollywood, people who are famous.
It's hard to tell you why I cannot stand Meghan Markle so much. After all, there are a lot of know-nothing, attention-seeking former actresses in this world. Part of it is because I do love the UK so much, and I think we effectively exported our worst cultural asset to hurt their royal family. And the other part of it, though, is the way that the media has always lapped up her obviously false claims and fed into her delusions of grandeur, which culminated in her and her.
Insiders say it shows just how much Meghan influences everything around him, even in his own legal battles. Harry couldn't stop centering her in a situation that had nothing to do with her. And then came the next twist. Harry insisted that none of his friends ever leaked to the press. He said his social circle wasn't leaky at all, and that royal reporters like Katie Nicholl and Rebecca English had no legitimate sources. But let's be real. There are actual photos of Harry casually hugging Rebecca English at polo events. Katie Nicholl, meanwhile, has covered the royals for years and built genuine access through professionalism. So those claims raised a few eyebrows. Now let's talk about the double standard. Harry wrote an entire 400-page book, Spare, where he exposed intensely private details about his own family. Everything from personal relationships to sensitive moments that no one expected to read. He's talked publicly about family fights, private texts, and even his own past experiences. Then came the Oprah interview and the 6-hour Netflix docuseries, all for massive paydays. Yet now, in court, he's claiming the media commercialized his life. The judge wasn't convinced, the defense wasn't convinced, and honestly, the public isn't either. And the contrast couldn't have been sharper. While Harry was emotionally unraveling in court, Meghan was thousands of miles away in California, busy trying to score an invite to a fashion funeral. That alone speaks volumes about where their priorities seem to be.
I have no idea where this came from, and as I told you and your producers...
I bet it came from Meghan's team. I bet you anything it came from Meghan's team.
He broke down in tears in court today, weeping about Meghan Markle's misery. And he was told to stop arguing back by the judge. Well, Prince Harry was giving evidence in his privacy claim against the publisher of the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday in the High Court.
If you've been following royal biographer Tom Bower, none of this feels surprising at all. He's been predicting these moments for years. In his book Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Windsors, he interviewed over 80 people who've known or worked with Meghan. According to his findings, Meghan has always been focused on status and access, wanting to be seen among elites rather than earning her place through skill or authenticity. And the Valentino situation proves it in real time. The fashion world saw her phone calls, her attempts to use a solemn event for a photo opportunity, and they rejected her outright. Tom Bower's conclusion? Meghan's main problem isn't drive or ambition, it's credibility. He said that when Netflix signed her and Harry, they gave her top producers, huge budgets, and total creative freedom, yet the projects fizzled. According to his research, executives quickly realized she wasn't bringing anything original or engaging to the table. And that's what separates true icons from those just chasing influence. Bower summed it up clearly. Authenticity is everything. The greats, from Martha Stewart to Oprah, built their empires by being real, by connecting to people in a genuine way. But in Meghan's case, every move feels rehearsed. Every gesture feels staged. And audiences can sense that instantly. She went to prison and rebuilt her life from scratch. Ina Garten started from a small food shop in the Hamptons and turned it into an empire. Even Gwyneth Paltrow, who people love to mock for being out of touch, still has an authentic personality that sparks strong reactions. You might roll your eyes at her, but at least she's real. Meghan, on the other hand, feels like she's constantly performing.
Inside, but she genuinely believed that marrying into royalty meant that she could simply just inherit elite status and that everybody would just swing the door open for her. Because the highest circles in Hollywood, royalty, fashion, finance, legacy power, it doesn't matter, your HR department, it will operate under one unbreakable rule. What happens on the inside stays on the inside, and everybody's hush-hush. Nobody talks about it. Nobody hints about it. Nobody has a source close to will say.
Like she's stuck playing a role that no one's buying anymore. According to royal biographer Tom Bower, that's been Meghan's problem all along. He said for years that she'd struggle in Hollywood because she lacks the one thing you can't fake: genuine charisma. No matter how polished or perfectly styled someone is, audiences can spot when the spark isn't real. And when it comes to Harry, Tom Bower has also painted a pretty unsettling picture. He claims Harry has become completely dependent on Meghan's direction, that every decision, big or small, goes through her first. And honestly, what we saw in that courtroom supports that idea. Harry turned a case that had absolutely nothing to do with her into an emotional monologue about Meghan's pain. That's not coincidence, that's a pattern. Tom Bower's predictions have been eerily accurate so far. He said Netflix would eventually back away from the Sussexes, that Meghan's cooking show would flop, and that American audiences would grow tired of the constant victim narrative. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. Her show, What's Love? Meghan, ranked 1,217 on Netflix, out of everything available on the platform. It pulled just around 2 million views in 4 months, numbers lower than some small YouTube channels with no celebrity attached. Even her holiday special couldn't escape the slump, ranking around 1,022nd, shockingly low for someone with supposed global influence. Netflix executives reportedly realized within months that their massive $100 million deal wasn't paying off.
In Hollywood, pack a basilica in Rome to remember design icon Valentino. Anna Wintour, Donatella Versace, Tom Ford, Anne Hathaway among those paying their respects at Valentino's funeral today. He died on Monday at the age of 93 at his residence in Rome.
Meghan couldn't deliver the kind of content audiences wanted. It was too polished, too stiff, too rehearsed. She wasn't spontaneous or relatable. People don't connect to someone who looks like they're always acting. Tom Bower summed it up years ago. She's performing, not being. And he might have been right again when it comes to her infamous Paris Fashion Week moment. Even he probably couldn't have imagined something that tone-deaf. During Paris Fashion Week in October 2025, Meghan posted a short Instagram video from her car as she cruised through Paris at night. She filmed the glowing bridges along the Seine, showing off her luxury lifestyle. But then came the part that caused global outrage. She rested her feet up on the seat and started recording near the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the same place where Princess Diana tragically lost her life in 1997 after being chased by photographers. That single video changed everything. Fans and critics alike called it insensitive and deeply inappropriate, especially considering Harry's connection to that moment. Prince William was said to be furious, and honestly, who could blame him? Tom Bower later said that it proved one thing above all: Meghan's lack of awareness and understanding of what the royal family truly represents. To him, it showed that Meghan cares more about attention and optics than legacy or respect. And now, Bower says the next chapter for the Sussexes looks grim. He predicts that the real challenges won't be about popularity anymore. They'll be about survival. Financially, things are looking rough. Reports claim Harry and Meghan have already burned through nearly $38 million on failed ventures and media projects. Their lavish Montecito mansion comes with a huge mortgage, their lifestyle isn't cheap, and the income streams seem to be shrinking.
Looks now at Valentino's impact on fashion.
His last name was Garavani, but just Valentino was enough to signal elegance, glamour, and that Italian style. Celebrities and royals were among his many muses, red carpets his stages, and that scarlet, or was it poppy, was a signature, his seductive Valentino red.
I love beauties, I love making women sensational, glamorous.
You're done. This is why the funeral story is so damaging to her. Because here's why this Valentino funeral situation is not just embarrassing for her. It's a career-defining moment, in my opinion, because funerals are sacred territory in elite circles. Not just elite circles, in everybody's circle. Especially if you have, a close-knit family and you're like, oh yeah, that blah, blah, blah.
Then there's the legal trouble. If Harry loses his ongoing case against the Daily Mail's publishers, he could be forced to pay their legal fees, a figure that could reach into the tens of millions of pounds. That kind of financial hit could be devastating, especially if the couple's remaining deals start to crumble. And just like that, Tom Bower's long-standing warnings are echoing louder than ever, because everything he predicted, from Hollywood rejection to financial strain, is starting to unfold right in front of us. And that brings us to where things stand now. A full-blown reality check for Meghan and Harry, and it's not pretty. Their carefully constructed image, built on glamour, sympathy, and endless rebranding, is starting to fall apart right before everyone's eyes. For years, they've tried to balance between being victims of the system and global power players, but the truth is that balance no longer works. The world has moved on, and the sympathy that once surrounded them has turned into fatigue. Even Meghan's inner circle seems to be shrinking fast. Insiders in Los Angeles whisper that several of her high-profile friends have quietly distanced themselves. The reason? Her reputation for being difficult to deal with. One source even described her as exhausting.
Everybody's very close-knit, but the moment that you see somebody that's not supposed to be there, everybody's like, why are they here? You know what I mean? Everything is handled silently when it comes to funerals, when it comes to elite circles, privately and respectfully, because that's the way people function. If Meghan Markle truly was part of this inner circle, think about it. She wants to be part of it. She thinks she is. She's a wannabe. This is one of two things that would have happened.
Not because of her personality alone, but because of the endless drama that follows her wherever she goes. Every appearance becomes a statement. Every absence becomes a headline. And in Hollywood, where image is currency, that kind of energy can be career-ending. Tom Bower wasn't exaggerating when he said Meghan's biggest problem isn't talent, it's authenticity. People love stars who feel genuine, people who might be flawed but honest. Meghan's public image feels the opposite. Everything planned, every move polished to perfection, every emotion calculated for effect. In a digital age where audiences crave realness, that kind of artifice stands out, and not in a good way. Hollywood has seen this cycle before. Fame built on mystery and drama, followed by overexposure and fatigue. It happened with countless celebrities who believed attention equals admiration. But the truth is more brutal. Attention fades when the audience stops believing the story. And for Meghan, that moment seems dangerously close. Industry insiders say that Netflix quietly stopped greenlighting her proposals after 2 consecutive underperforming releases. There were plans for another lifestyle documentary, even a talk show-style project, but executives reportedly shelved them. They didn't see the audience appeal. Without streaming success, Meghan loses both revenue and relevance, 2 things her brand can't survive without. Meanwhile, Harry's reputation isn't faring much better. Once seen as the relatable, fun prince who broke royal rules, he's now viewed as bitter and reactive.
And the judge intervened 3 times to try and calm him down. I mean, the first time, which was the one that you showed there, he was actually quite sympathetic and he was quite like, look, this is my job. I understand that this is a big moment for you, but you're making a mistake that a lot of people make. Let me just tell you, your job now is just to answer these questions. Let your legal team answer the case. And Harry seemed to kind of go, okay, my lord, yeah, whatever. Then he carried on, then he did it again. And then he did it a 3rd time, and it was really bad the 3rd time. So
his endless public complaints have alienated even some of his most loyal supporters. In the UK, polls show his popularity hitting record lows. And in the US, where the couple hope to reinvent themselves, interest has cooled dramatically. And then there's the mounting financial pressure. Their Montecito estate, the mansion once celebrated as their fresh start, has become a symbol of overreach. Reports suggest that just maintaining the property costs hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Staff, taxes, security, and upkeep add up quickly. Combine that with travel, legal fees, and the couple's luxury lifestyle, and you've got a financial storm brewing behind the scenes. Remember that massive Netflix contract everyone talked about? Sources close to the company claim that while the initial deal was indeed worth around $100 million on paper, the actual payout depended on performance milestones, meaning if the content didn't meet viewership goals, the full amount wouldn't be released. After multiple lackluster projects, it's very possible the Sussexes received only a portion of what people believe. That's a huge problem when your spending assumes the full deal came through. Publicists and branding experts in Los Angeles are now openly speculating about what comes next. Meghan has already burned through the easy routes: talk shows, podcasts, fashion tie-ins, documentaries. The only way forward would be a total rebrand, but that's risky. Once audiences decide someone isn't genuine...
This was in a question about Natalie Pinkham, who the Mail said that Katie Nicholl had called up Natalie Pinkham to ask her for a comment. She had given a comment, and then Katie had subsequently described her as a source. And Harry was basically saying, look, it's a different use of the term a source. You know, when people say a source, they assume that means some sort of insider who's speaking secretly or privately or what have you. And the judge was like, yeah, look, I'm a media lawyer, mate. I understand what a source is. I understand what you're saying. I understand the difference between a confidential source and someone who's been called up by the journalist and asked for a comment.
It's almost impossible to change their mind. And here's the irony. Meghan wanted to be seen as independent, powerful, and unstoppable. Yet every headline lately paints her as desperate for validation. Whether it's chasing elite events, calling fashion houses for invites, or trying to position herself alongside genuine industry icons, it all looks like someone grasping for relevance. That's the opposite of power. Even people inside the entertainment industry are starting to whisper about brand fatigue. Meghan's story, the outsider who married a prince, was once enchanting. But after years of interviews, documentaries, and memoirs, that story's been told from every angle. There's nothing left to reveal, nothing left to sell. Without new material, her brand becomes static, and that's deadly in Hollywood. Insiders also claim Harry's behavior hasn't helped. His court appearances and emotional outbursts, while human, have reinforced the perception that the couple can't move on from the past. The more they revisit old wounds, the less sympathy they receive. Audiences want growth, redemption, or at least self-awareness, not a replay of grievances that feel years old. What's even more striking is how quiet Meghan's PR team has been lately. Sunshine Sachs,
that were written between 2001 and 2013, 3 years before you allegedly met your wife. So what does Meghan have anything to do with this trial? Well, as the answer turns out, it has everything to do with Prince Harry's motivation and his miserable existence right now, because his wife is miserable, she's making his life miserable, and everybody's living in absolute misery. And Harry only has himself to blame, because no matter if he wins this trial or not, he's still going to be miserable.
The firm she once returned to in hopes of rebuilding her image has reportedly pulled back from high-risk exposure. No new major interviews, no big media pushes, just silence. And that silence is telling. It usually means the damage control phase is over and the next move is under careful consideration. Tom Bauer has said before that the final act for Meghan and Harry could mirror what happens when public interest collapses, a slow fade from relevance. Not a dramatic fall, but a gradual one. The invites stop coming. The calls go unanswered. The world moves on. And that's exactly what seems to be happening. Just a year ago, every small move they made dominated headlines. Now, major outlets are barely covering them. When their Netflix show flopped, it wasn't even front-page news. When Meghan's podcast vanished from streaming charts, few even noticed. The fascination has been replaced with indifference, and in celebrity culture, indifference is worse than hate. At this point, even if Meghan tried to relaunch another big project, say a clothing line, wellness brand, or new documentary, the odds are against her. The audience doesn't trust her narrative anymore. They've seen too many contradictions, too many attempts to rewrite history. Authenticity sells, image management doesn't. So what happens now? Industry observers predict that Meghan and Harry may be forced to downsize. That could mean selling their massive home, cutting back on staff, or even seeking new financial partnerships to stay afloat. It's not the glamorous freedom life they once promised.
Well, I do think the Sussex Overdrive is unbelievable. But I mean, I don't think that he is going to get back in. I mean, I think that there are two reasons. One is I think that William wouldn't allow it. And secondly, the moment he got back to America, he immediately promoted Disney and his trip to Disney World, which showed that he is very commercially minded, which we'll get into later on, which makes it impossible for him. And of course, Meghan wouldn't come back to Britain. So I think it's always the same. He wants his cake and eat it.
But it might be the reality they face. Because at the end of the day, image alone doesn't pay bills. Fame without trust doesn't build empires. And when every project feels like a performance rather than a passion, the audience eventually walks away. What once felt like the beginning of a global power couple's new era is now starting to look like a slow retreat, a royal dream fading under the weight of overexposure, overreach, and unmet expectations. It's becoming painfully clear. The Sussex fairy tale has hit a wall, and this time there's no clever PR spin that can fix it. Behind the smiles, the podcasts, and the glossy magazine spreads, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are now facing something far more real. A crumbling brand, an exhausted audience, and a marriage pulling in two opposite directions. Insiders say Harry desperately wants to mend fences with his family back in the UK. He misses the structure, the purpose, and yes, even the royal routine he once claimed to hate. He's quietly talked about reconciliation, about finding some kind of middle ground with his father and brother. To him, that feels like the only way forward, especially after so many public mistakes. But Meghan? She's focused on a completely different dream. The Hollywood dream. She's chasing Fashion Week invitations, rubbing shoulders with the A-list, and keeping her name in the same headlines as the industry elite. Two completely separate ambitions, one rooted in duty and legacy, the other in fame and access. And now they're colliding head-on.
Professionally, they've gone down dramatically, and I predicted it in the book, but even I would not have thought it'd be that accelerated. I think personally, they've separated their professional lives, but I think what's really a great problem for them now, as of in the last few weeks, is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
Tom Bower, the royal biographer who's been following their story for years, predicted this exact situation long ago. He said Harry would one day long for his royal roots, while Meghan would chase celebrity power until the public stopped caring. And his most haunting line has come true. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And we've officially reached that point. The fascination, the outrage, the constant coverage, it's all fading. People don't even hate Harry and Meghan anymore. They just don't care. And in the world of media and fame, that kind of silence is the loudest rejection there is. Think about how far things have fallen. Meghan tried to use a legendary designer's passing as a networking opportunity, working her contacts, making calls, and attempting to get an invitation to Valentino Garavani's funeral. It wasn't about paying tribute or respect. It was about being photographed among the elite. But this time, the fashion world stood its ground. They saw what she was doing and shut it down. No invitation, no access, no photo ops, just a very public no. Meanwhile, Harry was in London during the same week, and his appearance in court only made things worse. Instead of focusing on the case at hand, he broke down, argued with the defense, and was scolded multiple times by the judge. And even in a case that had nothing to do with Meghan, he brought her up anyway. He couldn't stop himself. The optics were terrible. Here was a prince, crying in court, while his wife was across the world chasing fashion invites. It was the perfect storm of dysfunction, and everyone saw it. Everything Tom Bower warned about has unfolded step by step. Netflix pulled back. Spotify ended their deal. Fashion houses are steering clear.
We already brought you the news that Spotify is ending its relationship with Harry and Meghan. Reporting indicates that they were paid some $20 million for 12 episodes. And despite this astronomically high rate per episode, Meghan apparently could not find the time to actually conduct interviews herself and would have someone else do it. She would then edit in her voice as if she was the one doing the interview. One of the craziest things I have ever heard. But there are even more details on the Spotify project, which are just too good. Harry apparently reneged on many parts of his deal because he just had too hard of a time coming up with something to actually say. His ideas ranged from a podcast on veterans.
And even Hollywood insiders, once fascinated by Meghan, have reportedly stopped taking her calls. Doors that once opened effortlessly are now closing quietly. Meghan has become known for showing up uninvited. Paris Fashion Week, Balenciaga, and now even Valentino's funeral. The pattern is undeniable. She tries to insert herself into elite spaces where she's not truly welcome. And when it doesn't work, it only adds to the perception that she's desperate for relevance. And Harry? He's stuck in the middle, torn between loyalty to his wife and a longing to reconnect with his family. According to sources, he's grown increasingly isolated in California, missing the familiarity of home and realizing that Hollywood isn't what he imagined. The glamour has worn off, and what's left is a public image in freefall. Their differences aren't just personal, they're philosophical. Harry's identity has always been tied to the monarchy, to service, to purpose. Meghan's identity has always been tied to visibility, influence, and media. Those two paths don't run parallel, they pull apart. Tom Bower has long suggested that this tension would eventually lead to a crisis in their marriage, and now every sign points in that direction. He said Netflix would lose interest, and they did. He said Americans would tire of the victim narrative, and they have. He said Meghan's public appeal would fade once the mystique disappeared. And that's exactly what happened. Even her latest attempts to relaunch herself haven't worked.
Watch a bit about what Meghan Markle's body language does here. We're going to cover this a couple of times. We'll watch it a couple of times, but I think that it's really significant. So let's just keep watching. So as you can see, she waited until she panned the camera to her feet. She shuffled her feet a little bit and then crossed them. Watch this right here. So you can see very briefly she lifted her left foot and then chose to put her right foot over it, which shows how intentional and planned this was. It shows that she's not just looking out a window, she's giving thought to what she's doing. This is all very intentional. So the question is this intentionally disrespectful to Princess Diana? Well, first let's talk about the significance of her filming her feet in this way. Interestingly, the feet are one of our least consciously controlled parts of our body. So as you can see her trying to shuffle around and figure out what to do, there was a real desire to show herself with her feet crossed, with her feet up. So when we think about symbolically what feet oftentimes represent, oftentimes it's about being grounded.
Her cooking show barely charted, ranking outside the top 1,000 on Netflix. Her podcast was quietly discontinued. Her fashion world connections have fizzled out. And that recent funeral rejection, it wasn't just an insult, it was a message. The industry has moved on. For years, Meghan built her identity around being unstoppable. But now, the unstoppable force is running into an immovable wall. Indifference. No outrage, no excitement, just silence. And that's worse than any scandal. Harry's situation isn't any better. His court appearances have become viral clips for all the wrong reasons. His emotional outbursts, his constant references to Meghan, and his inability to stay on topic have made him look unsteady. Even some of his most loyal supporters in the UK are starting to feel secondhand embarrassment. And the financial picture behind the scenes is equally grim. Reports say their lavish Montecito mansion costs a fortune to maintain, from staff to taxes to security. Their production team has shrunk, their content deals have dried up, and the passive income streams they once relied on are no longer guaranteed. The Netflix deal, originally touted as a $100 million success story, was reportedly milestone-based. That means with failed viewership and canceled projects, they likely never saw the full payout. Tom Bower believes this financial strain could accelerate the breaking point. If Harry loses his ongoing legal battles, the couple could face massive legal costs. Some estimates suggest it could reach into the tens of millions of pounds. Combine that with fading interest and dwindling offers, and the future doesn't look bright. Even their PR strategy seems exhausted. Sunshine Sachs, Meghan's go-to firm, has gone quiet. No more glossy magazine spreads, no talk show appearances, no big rebranding campaigns. Just silence. That's not strategy, that's retreat. And maybe that's what this all comes down to. Retreat. The world has grown tired of the drama, the contradictions, the endless retelling of the same story. The Sussexes built their empire on rebellion and sympathy, but now the rebellion feels hollow, and the sympathy has run dry. So here we are, Harry longing for home, Meghan longing for fame, and the rest of the world moving on. The story that once captivated millions has turned into background noise. The question isn't if they'll fade from relevance, it's when. Tom Bower was right about almost everything. The Netflix fallout, the Hollywood rejection, the loss of public interest. And now, as the cracks deepen in their marriage and careers, his predictions about a full collapse don't seem far-fetched anymore. So what do you think? Is Tom Bower right again? Are we watching a royal marriage fall apart in slow motion, one public misstep at a time? Or is there still a chance for redemption before it all comes crashing down? Let me know your thoughts down below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want more updates on this royal roller coaster. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.